To Team Talk, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see from the title, it is our big pre-season prediction episode, and I thought we would get some of the fieriest gentlemen Football Daily has to offer into one room. On my left, we've got Henry Hill. Woo, woo. And we've got Mikey McCubbin.
Yes! I don't know who's burning and who's not.
We've got Sam Obaseki.
Come on. Boo.
My side. And we've got Dougie Critchley.
Boo. You suck.
Usually I would ask these guys how they're doing. Today, I don't care.
Wow.
I want fire in the room. I don't want niceties. We're going to be doing, to start with, get your whiteboards in your hands.
Oof.
This is very aggressive now. This is really aggressive.
It's setting the tone.
Get your whiteboards in your hands. I want to set a tone here. I want your top 6 in order.
Yes! Here we go.
Straight off the back, there is no resting.
Top 6 in order. Okay, here we go.
None of this ranking legends nonsense. I've got a lot of categories to get through.
Oh, man.
Sorry, while they're writing their stuff down, I should really have said the rules, shouldn't I? If you haven't watched Team Talk before, is at my discretion who I award points to, who I take points away from. If you get a player to agree with you, generally you are going to get a point for convincing another human to agree with you. But, you know, anything goes in this game, to be honest with you. There are no rules, in the words of Specs Gonzalez. So in 3, 2...
flip-flopping over here.
That's got to be minus points.
I'm ready! 2, 1, reveal.
Oh, Villa in 6th.
Wow. A man hasn't got Chelsea on his board.
I think
United second.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Wow.
Where do you want to go first, Joe?
First and foremost, I want to go to Dougie, who is not included.
That is crazy.
Chelsea in the team.
You know you're actually a Chelsea hater, you know.
As it stands,
he's put Newcastle in 5th.
You guys don't have a defensive midfielder. Look, by the time this video goes live, you might have Caicedo through the door. That'll change it. You don't have anyone of experience. Your most oldest central midfielder is 23, and it's Conor Gallagher. You've got no experience. You've got no real quality outside of proven quality.
No real quality.
Outside of Enzo Fernandez in central midfield.
We've got no real quality,
just picked up an injury. Your best player in pre-season, Nicholas Jackson, you're already trying to replace him with Vlahovic.
It's not replacing.
I'm not sure that it would be a massive turnaround to finish in the top 6 as it stands. Getting Caicedo, yeah, you can sneak 6th.
Listen, yeah, you know what I find so interesting about Dukes and his opinions on Chelsea? They're so negative. You have not watched a single game.
True say.
Let's pile on Dukes now. Let's all pile on Dukes.
He's not watched a single game of Chelsea's pre-season yet. And I'm not,
but who has? Come on, I've not watched a single Man United pre-season. Who watches pre-season games?
Let me say my point. Yeah. You've not watched a single game. I'm not expecting you to. Yeah. But when I talk to you honestly, and I'm not coming. Look at where I put Chelsea in my list. I put them 5th.
You did have them 4th initially.
I did, and I moved them down because I realised there's other teams that have particular areas that are stronger. But the reason why I switched Liverpool is because their front line is a bit more. They've had more time to play together. You can't tell me that Villa, who are having Europe for the first time in years, they've made a few changes to their team. They've signed Tielemans and Pau Torres, and suddenly
Moussa Diaby as well.
And Moussa Diaby. Those signings do not make Villa a better team than Chelsea.
They're way more settled.
They're way more settled.
They've got better options in central midfield. I think they've got better options at centre back as well. Who's currently fit?
Options at centre back.
Who is currently fit? Yeah.
I don't think they have better options.
We've got the best fullbacks. We've got 2 of the best fullbacks.
Who can't stay fit for more than 5 games in a row?
We've got 2 of the best centre backs in the league. We've got one of the best. We've got one of the best forwards. And I don't even like this because you're making.
They've imported Monaco's back line, which I think is like Dasasi and Badiashile will be great.
Yeah,
they will be really good.
He hates Chelsea so much.
Chelsea.
He actually does.
The point he's made, I'd have them 7th.
The point he's made is that if you look at Aston Villa right now, it's not like they're having to start again. Pochettino is literally having to build a new team almost from scratch and get them. Obviously, they've got some good pre-season results because suddenly the vibes are finally a bit better at Chelsea.
Just to interrupt you, why have you gone for over Newcastle then? You had a very settled team last season.
Yeah, I just think they were. It was such an amazing season from last season. I don't think the Tonali signings or the Harvey Bayern signings really takes that squad ultimately to the next level. Yeah, all right,
But
fine.
that don't make sense.
This is what I don't get.
I just think that Aston Villa...
That's contradictory.
Aston Villa are in the Conference League, which I think they'll be able to cope with much easier than Newcastle will have in the Champions League, because it's the Conference League.
No, but that
what are you on about?
What are you
on about?
Honestly,
they could play their B team and still win the Conference League.
Okay, sorry, yeah. Can I just say one thing? And this is going all the way back to last season, yeah. When Arsenal had an incredible pre-season, everyone was saying, "Oh, you got to be wary of Arsenal and what they're going to do in the season." When they started the season, I think they lost one game out of their first 12 or so games, and that was to United 1-0. Yeah, Chelsea have had an incredible pre-season. We've not lost a game in the first time.
Matter,
you
man.
can't say it counts for little when we actually lost majority of our games in pre-season last year. We've not lost games this pre-season. We've scored goals. The new players that have come in look comfortable. The youngsters that came in that everyone was questioning.
Chelsea is definitely a happier camp. That's why I put them sixth.
We're playing Premier League sides as well. We're not playing.
City have had quite a bad pre-season. They've just won the treble. It doesn't necessarily mean that much.
I'm not saying that's
the
only thing that matters, but you can't just say, because you finished 12th, next season you're just not going to be good anymore.
I do agree with you, Oba. Like, I think, like, the idea that because Chelsea finished 12th under
who
two
has said
different managers
that?
last, no, but I think that,
put Villa on top of Chelsea.
I think for at least the first half of the season, Chelsea will genuinely be in the race for the top four, but they will fall short because Newcastle are more settled. You know, Eddie Howe is one of the best managers in the league at this point, and they've made some really good signings. I think Villa above Chelsea, I think, is still a bit of a stretch, just because they were not at the level that Newcastle were last year. I think Newcastle will be pipped just by Liverpool to fourth, but like, I think the Chelsea squad is still, I think, for sure, like, has way more depth than Villa's. Like, I think.
No.
Can I just interject here, because we are obviously hammering each other, but there's a lot of agreement on the top four. There's 3 agreements on the top 4, except for you, Henners. You've got Man United above Arsenal.
I just think that what I saw from Manchester United last year, with the inclusion of a new striker to take some pressure off Marcus Rashford, with Mason Mount coming into the midfield there, I just think they're getting better and better. And like, I don't think Jurrien Timber's a game-changing addition at centre half when already Arsenal's defence was pretty solid. It feels like there's a lot of pressure on this Arsenal team to really step up next year, and I think there's less pressure on Manchester United. I think Arsenal expected to really gun for the title next year in a way that Manchester United aren't. I really like what Ten Hag's done with them. I'm really positive about where Manchester United are going, with a new keeper as well who's going to change the style of the system there. So yeah, I genuinely think they could get second next year over Arsenal. I'm not saying they're going to like blow them away. I'm not going to say there's like a massive points discrepancy.
But like, I mean, with United, do you think like Mount and Højlund can make up that lack of goals?
Points?
Like, we barely scored any goals last year. Arsenal was scoring for fun, and Saka and Martinelli, barring injuries, will only be even better next year. Ødegaard's going to be even better. Like, the Arsenal's attack compared to United's attack they're miles ahead, and the defences aren't that different. Like, United have got a lot of work to do there. I think Onana's an amazing. I think United have had a great window, but I think a great season for United is holding on to that third place.
Hang on, Oba wants to get Chelsea involved.
The reason why I'm trying, because I hear all of the things that you're saying. Yeah, Arsenal are going to have different type of pressure on them. Yeah. But I don't understand how you can't think that applies to Aston Villa and Newcastle, who are going to be playing Europe when they haven't been in those conversations before. They've added signings that, yes, they're quality, but how are they going to acclimatise to the league? How are they going to acclimatise to playing 2 or 3 times a week? When you're talking about a team that has had a down period before, and yes, that was a few years ago, but they came straight back into that conversation. So for you to now completely rule them out.
Which team are you talking about?
Chelsea, of course.
Oh, right, yeah.
For you to completely... because you know why? Because everything else here, City...
What else would it be? Yes, of course. I should have just assumed.
City being top, is normal. Yeah, Arsenal being second, I'll put them there because I actually think that they have added to the quality that they already have, and for me to put them any lower wouldn't make any sense.
They've got serious depth now,
Manchester United third makes sense. Liverpool, I would have put them third, but because they lost Fabinho now, I don't know how it's going to look moving forward. But the other two, I just don't understand.
But I get your point. Chelsea have bounced back in the past, but you did have better players who are more settled in your side then as well. Your better players in your side right now are either brand new or not playing particularly well.
What makes you think they're not good, though?
Fernandez. I don't think they're necessarily bad.
You're not rating them, though. You're not actually rating them.
I think they're great. I just don't know whether they're good enough. I don't know whether they're good enough to make you go from 12th to 5th.
Also, like, Poch is an amazing manager, but this is his first time taking over a really new squad since he arrived at Tottenham, which was like 10 years ago, pretty much. Like, this is a big challenge for him as well to settle that squad. It's still a pretty big squad. Like, I think 6th for Chelsea will still be a pretty successful season. I think Chelsea will go for top 4. I don't think it's not like they can make up that ground. I think Chelsea will be pretty good under him, but there will be like lots of ups and downs under him. There always is with Pochettino, because he has his own style of play. He has his own like training regimes that like players have to get used to. Like, it's a lot of work at Chelsea, and he doesn't have Europe. He doesn't have Europe, which is a big
and
plus.
Newcastle are just
but
Villa are a team going in one direction. Unai Emery is a better manager than most of the managers that we're seeing on this list. He's achieved more.
Wow!
Don't just call that bomb. Surely something's
Most, he's better than Klopp. He's better than
I meant Newcastle. I meant Newcastle, Chelsea.
Do you think he's a better manager than Pochettino?
Do you think he's better than Poch?
I think he's achieved way more than Pochettino.
He has,
Achieved
but it's different.
Or is better?
different.
Say what you're saying.
I think he's a better manager than Mauricio Pochettino.
Why?
Big statement.
Who did a better job at PSG? Unai Emery. Who's won more titles? Unai Emery. Who's got more experience across Europe?
The biggest bottle.
Are you joking? Joking? Do you know how many Europa Leagues he's won? Do you know how many like?
And that's I credit man for that. But when he went to Arsenal, he didn't perform the way everyone expected.
Are you joking? He had to take over from Arsene Wenger. Are you honest? Are you serious? He had to go into that transitional period and make Arsenal.
So that
he
means
had one
that
of the hardest jobs. He had one of the hardest jobs in football. We saw what happened to David Moyes, and he did better than them. He at least got them to a final. No, let me speak, Sam. At least got them to a final, and now he's gone to Aston Villa, and once again got Villarreal to win the Europa League. Now he's got Aston Villa. When he took them over, they were a relegation threatened side, and he's got them into the Conference League, which they're probably going to win next year. And look at their squad. It's not too far off, in all honesty, Newcastle squad at this point in time, Aston Villa squad. It's got that much depth, I think, with the likes of Tielemans coming in, Pau Torres, etc. Like, Aston Villa are definitely going places. I don't think 5th is completely unreasonable when they got Moussa Diaby as well, which is an unbelievable signing.
Did you not use your argument, Sam, against you? You know, you're saying that Unai Emery had a big drop and dip at Arsenal. Did Poch not have a big drop and dip at PSG?
I think that,
shocking.
I think
shocking.
That we can't say a manager that's gone to PSG and lived up to all their expectations. So it's like a poison chalice. That's what most people say about PSG, and we've all said it. So don't try to act like we haven't.
Emery's points per game basis at PSG is the greatest in their history.
No, but so you go. So him going.
He also did lose the game. He also did lose the title.
He still won a domestic treble.
So him going to Arsenal, you cannot tell me because he had to take over Wenger. Yes, he had to do that, but he got that because of the credit that he built up before that, and he didn't perform. Aston Villa now, I don't even know if they overperformed. They were good last season. But now going into this season, making the signings, and remember, I can't believe, I actually cannot believe that people are trying to tell me that Villa are suddenly going to be in this conversation now when they haven't.
We didn't think Newcastle. We didn't think Newcastle. We didn't think Newcastle were going to get Champions League last year, and they went out and did it. I think Aston Villa are in a similar position to go.
I think they'll be competing around with Chelsea around that.
I want to mention 2 words that haven't been said.
Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah. In this entire conversation, 15 minutes or so we've had here, you haven't mentioned.
It's almost impossible to imagine Kane getting into this conversation other than 6th. I didn't really. I thought Villa or Chelsea probably are more set to finish above Spurs. There's a lot of upheaval there as well. They might be losing Højbjerg, Kane, of course. Like, there's so many unanswered questions. And I don't think it even matters whether Spurs finish in the top 6 this season. I think they'd be happy just watching better football as a fan base and finishing 7th, 8th.
Yeah, they will.
I don't know. I think the expectation is to still be in that conversation.
Even if they lose Kane?
I mean, if they lose Kane, they have to reinvest quite well. But I don't necessarily think that investment goes into their strike.
I think they're already reinvesting quite. Like, I think they've already had made some. Well, if they get Van der Ven in, might be done by now. I think that's a great signing. But it's just like a case of gelling. Postecoglou in the Prem for the first time. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really entertaining season for Spurs. They're gonna like blow some teams away 5-0. They're going to get absolutely spanked by like Man City 6-0 at some point. Yeah, like they will. Like, yeah, it's gonna be entertaining to watch. But yeah, they're not. But the top 6, 7 is just too strong now in the Prem. And Tottenham have a transitional year ahead of them.
No one's mentioned Brighton as well, by the way.
Yeah,
no one's mentioned.
If they keep Caicedo, maybe.
I forgot about them.
So
I don't, but I think Brighton. Yeah, it's just. I
think
don't know.
Brighton are going to do better than Aston Villa. That's me being honest. So I don't understand.
Let's get 7th, 8th, and 9th down on the board right now. Let's keep this going.
I don't understand how you can mention a Villa and not even think of a Brighton.
Yeah.
It's just.
Actually, think of Brighton.
I did. I just said them.
I am going to I'm going to change one thing.
I'm
going to remove Chelsea and put in Brighton.
Love it. Love it.
Good.
That's great.
Okay, that was a very, very strong round. I really liked Henry's arguments there. I think he did a great job. Henry's definitely getting a point. I think, Sam, I'm also going to give you a point.
Thank you very much.
Just for the backing of your own team, so strongly there, even when the conversation wasn't about Chelsea.
You heard that, guys. It's all about passion, this episode.
No, there was all passion here. We were all passionate.
I am a passion merchant.
All right, okay.
He needs to see the days, bro.
The more passion you have in your argument and the more you argue with each other, the more likely. Okay, the next category then on the table is the biggest underachiever.
Next season.
Who's going to be the biggest underachiever in the Premier League?
Jesus, I can't even remember all the teams in the Premier League. Who's even...
Okay, in 3, 2, 1, reveal your teams, please. We've got a Brentford, we've got a Fulham, West Ham and Newcastle.
Wow, that's what you
Did
want.
you go Brentford?
Yeah, Brentford.
I was going to go Brentford, but...
I want to hear some interesting ones here.
Okay.
Why have you gone Fulham?
Fulham, they absolutely overachieved last year, and somehow people think that they're still in the conversation for like 11th, 10th.
Do
9th.
they? Do they?
Some people do. Some people do. You'd be surprised.
I haven't seen
that. Well, yeah. But like, they are in a relegation battle, aren't they? They're in a relegation battle. Mitro's gone. Raul Jimenez is in. Like, by the standards of last season, especially like Marco Silva was up for the Manager of the Year award. Like, and imagine it, like Palhinha, so far he's staying, but defensive midfielders are in demand, and he's in. Yeah, that's to be fair. Yeah, that's kind of put him out of contention. But yeah, so he started the season with an injury. He was holding your team together last year. I'm not having a go at you here, Henry. Actually,
I'm not.
Yeah. I'm just directing my argument at someone. I'm just directing my argument at someone. But Fulham are in, I think, a serious relegation battle last year. That's a big drop off. That's a big drop off from 10th. Yeah, in terms of a team dropping from their thing before, from their position the season before, I think Fulham are. Yeah, I can't think of a team that's going to drop off more than Fulham.
Okay,
right. Okay, first of all, just to. Your arguments are like wrong for all the right reasons, if that makes sense. No one thinks Fulham are going to do well next year. We've signed Raul Jimenez up front. You're right. Marco Silva got nominated for working miracles with that squad. The XG showed that we were meant to concede so many more goals than we did last year. We scraped through last season, and the signings have been so bad this summer. We've just signed Willian. Now it looks like he's going to Saudi Arabia after 1 week.
As of the 3rd of August.
Listen, it's not good, and I don't think that anyone's expecting Fulham to have a good season. Most people on Twitter are expecting Fulham to have a bad year. You've both got West Ham for a similar reason.
Can I let it be known that he changed his answer to mine?
Wait.
Okay,
don't ever get it twisted. I am not copying this guy.
But what does it mean though to underachieve?
It's my turn. West Ham, no one is expecting them to do well again. There's so much uproar. The fact they've not signed anyone. People are furious with the new the sporting director that's coming from Bayer Leverkusen. It looks like they're going to have a bit of a honking season and have to balance European football as well.
But what does underachieving mean though?
Brentford,
like, in that sense?
They've lost their striker. They've still spent a lot of money to sign Nathan Collins. They've still spent a lot of money to sign Kevin Schade permanently.
But is everybody not saying that they're not going to be as good as that,
People have like a romantic perception of Brentford and how they're going to do next year. I think they're going to have a really bad campaign. We just highlighted how strong the top 10 of the Premier League is going to be.
For Brentford than West Ham.
I don't think so.
West Ham have just won the Europa Conference League.
Yeah,
they're in the Europa League next year.
Their fan base is up in arms at how bad their pre-season and transfer window has been so far. Brentford are still making moves in the window to try and address the fact they're going to lose Tony for 6 months. I think this is going to be the year the bubble bursts on Brentford being like a top team. This is going to be the year. This is going to be the year where they're going to be found out a little bit. I'm not saying they're going to get relegated. I'm just saying they're going to have to accept the fact they're probably going to come in about 15th.
I think most people
15th or 16th.
I think most people would expect
happen.
Brentford to finish 15th. They've just lost a guy that scored over 20 goals last year for the next 6 months. Like, no one's expecting big things from Brentford.
I just don't think they'll finish that low.
People are expecting big things of West Ham. They're in the Europa League. They haven't signed a player. They've completely messed up the market as of the 3rd of August. You know, they've missed out on Edson Alvarez. They've missed out on Ward-Prowse so far. They had that guy, Borges, stolen off them by Ajax. Like, they haven't been able to get a single player in, and they've just lost probably the best player of their 21st century.
And so it's created a very negative atmosphere around the club. No one's expecting them to have a good season.
I think these guys
year.
could be wrapped up in a relegation battle unless they massively up their game in the next 5-6 weeks.
They were last year for most of the campaign.
But the UEFA Conference League covered up cracks. That in the Europa League, people expect West Ham to have a better season than Brentford.
It's very easy to say West Ham.
And also it depends.
So can I just confirm that?
Because you've changed.
Okay, I'm changed back. Can I just say a few things? I felt rushed for time, so that's why I just put Newcastle. But then when I thought about my answer again, I put Newcastle back. The reason why I think that all of these teams, Newcastle is the team that is going to underachieve the most is because everyone has now put them as this Champions League squad. They've signed Tonali, they've signed Barnes, they've got Livramento for 35 mil. They're going to be in that conversation every single year now. Eddie Howe has never managed a Champions League squad. He doesn't understand what it is to be a manager of a Champions League team. And I don't think that that's necessarily like the worst thing. But I think because of that pressure and that pressure to maintain that status, I think that it's gonna cause for there to be some form of effect on either his team or just results in a. How do I even say
his
it?
Job security.
Not even his job security, but I think he's going to be. I do think he's going to be on some form of a timer where if he doesn't achieve good results in the first 3 or 4 months, Newcastle board are going to look at it and be like, maybe we should get a Champions League manager in. I think
Jose.
That's Obba saying it, not me. Newcastle fans as well.
I think no. I rate Newcastle. I rate Newcastle. Don't get twisted. I even rate Eddie Howe, but I think they're already looking like they're trying to mold that Champions League like setup, that team, bringing European players and things like that. With Brentford, for example, no one's expecting them to do madness because they've lost Tyron Tony. West Ham, you literally said the point yourself about them not doing that well, but over covering the cracks with the European Conference League. Fulham, they've not made any clear signing that makes you think that they're going to be in that conversation for the top half anyway. So that's not underachieving. None of these sides, and no one's saying that these lot are going to be in any conversation
Newcastle finishing
around
like
Europe.
7th be a disaster for them? I don't think it would be.
Yeah.
I think with the signings that they've made, with Tonali for 70 mil, Barnes for over 35, right? Livramento for 35. Bro,
I don't think those.
You have to be in that conversation.
But when we're talking about,
years, I think they just happily take a year in the Champions League and have European football next year. I don't think Newcastle fans are that spoiled. Like they're up for the journey.
That's not realistic though. You can't see your team go from 4th and then making signings that are supposed to transform your team to now be in the top 10.
But I don't think those signings necessarily do transform their team. Like if we're talking about, like, say, compared to Aston Villa, I think Aston Villa have far more transformative signings compared to Newcastle. Livramento has made 3 substitute appearances in the last 2 years.
It's more for depth,
2 years.
Of
course it's more for depth, but it's not a transformative signing. Whereas, Newcastle could conceivably. I'm not making the argument with Fulham. Fulham could drop from, what was it? Was it 10th they finished last year? I would back, like, Fulham could get relegated. Fulham could finish.
I think most people accept that.
Fulham could finish bottom. Like Fulham could actually finish bottom of the league. That's a 10 position drop. Like, that is conceivable.
All right, we can make that argument for anything. I can say Brentford could finish not 18th, and that's an 11 point.
Yeah, but that's just not going to happen, though, is it? Because Brentford
Why is it not? I don't think it's going to happen. Fulham are going to get relegated.
Solid foundation.
We're not going to lose to Sheffield United, are we?
I think Newcastle's defensive coaching under Howe means that there's only so far they can drop. Brentford's system under Frank means there's only so much they can drop. Even without Tony, I think they will still, like, they've still got a very solid counter-attacking system, even without Tony.
I don't think they've refreshed the squad enough. I think this is going to be the year that the Brentford bubble bursts in the terms of them, like,
again. And what about West Ham? Will they still be forever blowing bubbles?
No more points because we've got a lot more categories to get through. Yeah. I'm going to award a point to Mikey McCovern, first and foremost, for targeting a rival player's team. I think that's great off the back. And I'm actually going to give another point to Obaseki. I think he argued really well for Newcastle.
Thank you very much.
Next category then is biggest overachievers. You've done under. Who's going to be over?
Jesus.
3, 2, 1. Reveal.
All different.
Wow, totally different. So I want to open up straight with you. Arsenal.
I think
winning the league.
Arsenal could have an absolutely exceptional season. I think they could finish.
What's overachieving for Arsenal, given they finished second?
I think they could have a deep Champions League run and finish with more than 90 points. And I think that would be an overachievement given where they've been in the last few years. I genuinely think this squad is very deep in nearly every area now. I think Urian Timber is a really underrated signing, can play all across that back line. I think Declan Rice in that 8 role. I think even Kai Havertz has shown signs in the last couple of games in pre-season that he's going to be good in that
using
role.
pre-season now, are you?
In that role.
Using pre-season all of a sudden.
They've got better depth in forward areas.
I'm happy that you said that.
I think Arsenal could have a genuinely exceptional season. Palace have only signed one player.
That's horrible.
Burnley could go either way. They could finish 15th. Is that big enough overachievement? And then Bournemouth, they've all right. They've made some solid signings, but I think Arsenal could have a deep Champions League run and 90 points.
Before we pile in on Dougie, can we just all pile in on Obaseki?
Yeah, that's not.
Wait.
Not
You
true.
know why?
That's
You know
not
why?
true,
Wait.
They've lost Zaha. They're going to lose Elise.
No,
What's going to happen?
not. At the time of recording, they haven't lost him. but the reason why I said Palace, is because at the time of recording, I don't think that them losing Zaha is going to affect them as negatively as everyone thinks. Last season, he scored, I think, 7 goals, had 3 or 4 assists. I think Eze and Elise, if they're able to continue the way they've been playing at the back end of last season and during pre-season, I think that Roy Hodgson might have something going there. I genuinely believe in terms of overachieving, because everyone's expecting them to drop off and suddenly become this team that is fighting relegation. They still got a very solid partnership at the back. Their midfield is calm. They need to make a few more signings, but at the same time, in terms of overachieving, Arsenal are not going to overachieve. No. Burnley potentially, but they still need to make a few signings. Company said today that he's still hungry for signings. They lost 6 players that helped them get to the Premier League. They need that.
They've made a ton of signings. It's a big transition. It's a big transition.
Exactly, and that could backfire, because this is the first time he's managing in the Premier League.
This is why we're talking about whether or not a team could overachieve. Arsenal, I'm sorry, you can't spend that much money, finish second last year, and have that much pressure on you to do well. And I don't think they can overachieve. I think they might achieve what they're expected to achieve next year with everything that they've done recent times. Sorry, Albert, I'm not going to bash you for it. I think that's just wrong.
South London, baby.
It's just not happening. I'm not going to disagree with you, because I think Bournemouth, we really like Andoni. I'm not going to argue for you.
You always call him his first name.
You can't pronounce the second one.
Right. Burnley are a team coming up from the Championship.
With Vincent.
As you said, they've had a massive overhaul of their squad, of the players that they've brought in. It's really exciting. I think some of the additions that they've made there, if Burnley continue playing the attractive football they did, they were unbelievable in the Championship last year. If they can apply that to the Premier League and continue to do well, I think we could see it like a really good runner this year from one of the promoted sides.
But don't you think most people see them finishing around 15th, 16th?
I think they're going to be higher. I think they're going to be higher.
You think they're going to be higher than 15th,
I think they could be pushing...
Fair enough. I mean, if they finish... That is definitely the biggest...
I think they could be... Yeah, I think they could finish
That's
above
definitely the
Brentford.
biggest overachievement if they finish higher than 15th.
I think they could finish higher than 15th. I think the money they've spent, the ambition they've shown under the new ownership, who I think have been really smart moving away from the Sean Dyche era of the club there. Kompany is quite clearly a really smart guy who commands respect from that squad. I think Trafford in goal is going to be like a revolutionary signing in goal. I think what he's did for the Euros under 21s, amazing, and his performances so far as a professional, only 20 years old. I think he's one to look out for. I think Burnley have made some great additions across that whole team, and I'm excited to see what they can do next year. And it's like, if we think of Burnley of the past, this is going to be like the new, improved, really exciting Clarets that we're going to see next year. So I think
they did have some good seasons under Sean Dyche, though.
They did, but that was very much in like the Dyche mould. And capitalising on sort of the state of play in the Premier League. I think if you look at the sort of turmoil of Everton, etc., there is a window of opportunity to Burnley make a big statement next year, and the players they've signed, I think they can do it.
They're losing a lot of... They've lost their top scorer, though, haven't they, from last season? Like, I think Burnley... Yeah, lost Maatson. Is Harwood Bellis still there, or is he back at City? Like
Jefferson Lerma's gone to Crystal Palace. Right. So Jefferson Lerma's gone to Crystal Palace, and he was probably their best player in the field for multiple years.
That's true. But they also made some really exciting signings in January. I think Dango Otara is going to go to a new level this season. New manager. I think the decision to get rid of O'Neill was, I think, the right decision. I just think, Bournemouth have not made a particularly bad signing since coming back to the Premier League. Kluivert. I think Kluivert could be a hit for a club like that, and a good fee as well. Semenyo will have a full pre-season behind him as well. He was super impressive in the Championship. I think Bournemouth could be a genuinely really fun attacking team next year. I think Solanke is in the form of his life too. What
does that equate to?
I think that equates to above a 15th place finish potentially, and I think that's where Bournemouth are at. Bournemouth, in terms of stature, are by far far the smallest club in the Premier League, one of the smallest clubs that has ever been in the Premier League. Okay, actually Luton maybe rival them a little bit, but I would say actually Bournemouth are a smaller club than Luton in many respects, historically. And I think, Bournemouth were dead certs last year to finish 20th. They overachieved last year in terms of not doing it, but I think they've got more of the minerals now, actually, to finish in a place. They overachieved in terms. I feel like they could finish 14th this year, Bournemouth, and actually the underlying numbers could suggest that they deserve that place.
The difference between these two is at least Bournemouth were in the Premier League last year. At least the core of that squad. No. I wasn't going to go for you, but then you went for me. So I've been forced into a corner. I've had to bring out the guns.
I pointed out a couple of facts.
At least the core of your squad was in the Premier League last year. Burnley, it's a massive. It's a massive step up for all of them. You're saying that a team that you're right, made some great signings and have continued to do so, like brought in a lot of quality from over Europe. I think they should be looking to go up, push on next year. That's the ambition the owners have shown. Whereas Burnley are a promoted team.
I've been putting my hands up, and you guys have just not been noticing. Yeah, it's clear that I've lost this one, and now I'll take it on the chin. But what I would say about Burnley is that I think out of all the teams that have been promoted, they're probably the team that everyone's expecting to have that expansive football. I'm saying mid-table. So I don't think it's going to be overachieving whatever they do, because everyone's expecting them to kick that ball. Pep's young G. I think that they're not going to overachieve. I think
I'm saying mid-table. I've heard enough now in terms of overachievement. I think Mikey is getting the point.
Oh yes.
I think you argued really, really well there. And more breaking news. I'm deducting sound point for what might be one of the worst.
Did you not listen to anything I said?
Love it.
Next category is the biggest flop transfer.
Oh.
Who is going to be the biggest flop transfer come the end of the season?
In the Premier League.
Premier League only, please. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Review your names. How about Whelan? That says Madison, and that says the Hood.
Madison.
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest, what I'm going to say here.
You're still getting points.
I panicked.
I had a panic.
He's already admitted that he's got a great... He's already said he doesn't know how he's going to argue. At least he had some conviction. You have to back your morals. You have to even go.
How on earth is Dahoud going to flop at Brighton?
Let me tell you, my friend. Let me tell you. At least I have
an argument for this. I panicked, but I do have...
You cannot say your argument.
Shall I say my argument? Okay, cool. Madison. Kane is not there. Madison primarily really is a crater. I don't think there is. I don't think that. I think it's going to be a lot for Madison to carry that forward line by himself. I think he's going to have to do that.
Mikey, headers. Right. Respond to Mikey's The Who slander.
Free transfer.
How can this free transfer?
He's literally joining midfield FC. He's joining midfield FC.
No.
Henry, no. Ruling, I don't want to hear.
No. That's not fair. That's not fair. Let me say that. Let me say that. That's absolutely horrible.
The judge has already said it.
Mahoud Dahoud came from Borussia Dortmund. Dahoud came from Dortmund. He's meant to be. They're losing Caicedo and McAllister midfield, and this is the guy they bought in. This is the guy they bought in central midfield. He's meant to be the experience to replace that. His injury record is so bad. I think he's going to be missing for most of the campaign. I think he's going to be. He's meant to be someone who's providing experience to push on that Brighton midfield. He's not going to be able to provide it next year. You have to listen.
I really, really hope the editor just cuts and comes back in. You have to listen. Okay, Hoyland.
I think this is the most obvious tap-in of the lot, to be honest. The most inexperienced player, the biggest pressure being the number 9 for Man United. He's only been starting since January. He could have a perfectly good season as a 20-year-old and score 7, 8 Premier League goals. That won't be enough for the Twitter sphere. It won't be enough for people, the court of public opinion. But he's going to get absolutely roasted unless he hits 15 league goals, and I'd be amazed if he did, and it wouldn't even be his fault.
Yeah, but does that like there's a flop in the eyes of the Twitter sphere? What actually constitutes a player actually being a flop, though?
Well, I wouldn't say. Well, that's my point. I think he could score 8 goals next year in the league, and it wouldn't be. It would be bad. given what they paid for him
Yeah.
and the quality of other strikers they could
Would
have
you
got.
personally call him a flop for that?
I wouldn't, but I'm more rational than a lot of people.
So he's going.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going against my own argument. Obviously,
you are,
Yeah, he's going against his argument. He's gone against his own argument.
obviously, it's just the general perception. We're not talking about who's going to say what in this room, because I don't think any of us would call any of these players flops.
No,
Because we're not.
I will.
I will.
Let's just hear from Sam.
I will, and don't get it twisted. And don't get it twisted, yeah. And this ain't nothing against him in it, because what he done for Chelsea, he had patches where I appreciate him. He won us the Champions League.
Won you the Champions League.
did.
You're
But
doing this.
You're doing this goal.
because that's the Chelsea.
Do you have
me
no
and that
loyalty?
goals. I appreciate what he done, but for what Arsenal signed him for, and we're saying that he is that player to replace Xhaka, yeah? Xhaka was a midfielder last season that was probably one of Arsenal's players of the season. Double digits goals, was a leader, was all over the pitch, yeah? You're telling me, maybe it wasn't double digits, might have been under, but he scored a brace He got 7 goals
and 7 assists.
7 goals, 14 goal involvements. Yeah.
There we go.
You're telling me that Havertz, a player that has rarely played in that number 8 position,
Well,
is
except
going
for
to-
his days at Bayer
is-
Leverkusen.
and that was years ago, 3 years ago. The Havertz that was then is a different Havertz now, and that's just the reality. You're telling me that person is going to come in and replace the output and the leadership that Xhaka had. I think that is wrong. On top of the fact that they have 2 other midfielders that Arteta has already been training to play that position in Emil Smith-Rowe and Vieira. Emil Smith-Rowe, I believe what is going to happen is that they're going to play Havertz in this position. And when it's not working out, Smith-Rowe is going to now take his place, and we're going to be wondering, why is Havertz sitting on the bench? I don't think that he's going to have the impact that Arsenal fans or even Arteta expected him to. And I also believe that they're going to have this constant dialogue of where are we going to play him to get the best out of him, because that is what we saw at Chelsea. And it wasn't because he wasn't good in certain areas, it's because he wasn't consistently good in the areas that he played in. So I don't understand a team that Arsenal that is already set up to succeed, why they would get someone like Havertz to replace Xhaka.
I've got a couple of things on that. I don't think they are setting up Fabio Vieira or Emil Smith-Rowe to play the role that they brought in Havertz for. I think they're going to play either on the right wing or the left wing. I also think Havertz has the level of experience playing in that role beforehand. He can play a number of different roles for this Arsenal side. He adds depth, even if he's not as good as Xhaka was last season. He's still a helpful player to have around the squad, playing 3 or 4 different roles.
Okay, so
there is much less pressure on him because he's joining a better side than Højlund, who is going in there and expected to take Man United to the next level as a 20-year-old.
How can there be less pressure when Arsenal finished second and lost it on the last few
Because
games?
they've also signed better players.
And everyone was saying this window can propel them to being champions. So you're telling me Timber looks like a great signing. You're telling me, who else did they get?
Rice.
Rice is a great signing. Havertz is the only signing that people are questionable about, because when you look at all of these positions, all the other areas that you said that he can play in, false 9 or out wide, there's other players that can do that job better. And then the player that you've asked him to replace, he doesn't do that role like him. So he's gonna have to learn constantly throughout the season. He's already spoke about how much he's learning, this, that. I've watched a few of his highlights and some of the halves that he's played for Arsenal, and it's literally him learning on the job. It's not like he knows how
like any new signing.
No, but it's not the same as a Rice or like a Timber.
I've got to say, I think this is your Chelsea head.
It's not. Bro, I like Havertz.
I think that's a better answer than that.
I don't.
Personally.
Genuinely, dude. Yeah, I like Havertz, but if we're talking about what Arsenal need to get to that next level, could they have spent that money elsewhere or on players that?
But
could
who
come
has a
in to
bigger
do that
chance
role?
to flop? A guy joining a very settled side who have a good chance of getting 85 points, or the guy who's a 20-year-old being brought for what, 70 million euros?
You're saying a 20-year-old, he's still a good striker, and if you look at he
is a good striker, but on the basis of what, 1,500 minutes?
If you look at the type of player Erik ten Hag wants, yeah, he wanted a Højlund mold, and that is just a fact. Or they wouldn't have put that money in for him. Yes, he hasn't scored that many goals yet, but we're talking about a market where you're paying for potential, and that is what United are doing.
Okay, I'm gonna rule here.
I thought I was strong, Sam. I thought I was very strong.
Really strong by Sam. I felt a bit of a passion merchant here. I felt the passion. I'm going to give a point to you. I'm also going to give a point to Dukes.
Thank you.
So I do think Dukes argued his case very well.
I mean, we were out of it within the first 10 seconds. We were out of it.
He said,
that was a disgrace for us team. I put Madison.
Yeah. Actually, but that's minus one of my.
Yeah, that has to be
I'll absolutely take that. That was a panic. That was a panic. That was an absolute panic.
The next prediction is the best transfer. So we've done the biggest flop. Who's the best transfer come the end of the season?
This is fatiguing, bro. I'm gonna.
3, 2, 1, reveal.
Oh, Finally, someone agrees.
Gosh, we got an agreement.
Yeah,
This might be the
actually
first
an
agreement
agreement,
of the day. Why have you both said Onana?
Well, I think he's got the biggest potential to transform a side out of any of these signings by a distance. I think David De Gea, his deficiencies are well known. Onana knows Erik ten Hag. He knows how to get the best out of Onana as well. I think he's going to make a massive, massive difference to their play in possession. I think he changes the fact that they don't always have to be a sort of counter-attacking side as well. I think he's got the potential to be one of the best keepers in the league, sort of top 3 from the get-go.
Yeah.
Obviously, goals is Chelsea's biggest problem, and I think they've finally gone and got someone who's consistently, and assists as well, like goals and assists. And Nkunku's been producing for RB Leipzig for so many years now. I think he's kind of what they need, and I know if I'd said Nicholas Jackson, you'd have said no because
Why not?
even though you've openly slated them. And Nkunku, that's not quite the opposite. I think Nicholas Jackson could have a fun season as well, but I just think Nkunku is an unbelievable player. It's big money for a forward, but I think they finally got this one right. I think if you look at his ability to cut in, he's so versatile for that Leipzig side. He's played in a number of different systems over the years there. I just think if we're looking for attacking flair, which is really what Chelsea need, Nkunku could be that guy. And he settled in pretty well in pre-season. I think he's got experience. Compared to Jackson, he's got a lot more experience. He's a Champions League footballer. He's in that French. He would have been in that French World Cup squad if it wasn't for an injury that he got late on. So yeah, I think he's that good, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. And he's such an upgrade on Mudryk, in my opinion. In that
don't play in the same position, but fair enough.
They do. They left, dropping inside. He can play forward. He's so versatile. He can do a lot of things, which is what they need because that forward line just needs something.
Okay, so I put Maddison for 2 reasons. One, because it's just funny that Mikey said that earlier. But also, if we're talking
get them
about,
to 8, Fizzy.
if we're talking,
that is what you said. I'm going to refer you to your previous top 6 answer where you said Tottenham are really going to struggle.
Okay, and I said they're going to struggle, but if there's going to be one player that's going to keep them in that conversation or near around that conversation, it is James Maddison. Like we're talking about a team that could possibly lose their top goal scorer in their history. Yeah. If you need a creative player, but also personality to keep the morale around the team, the fans, the manager. Maddison is that signing, especially the way Postecoglou wants to play. We've already seen it pre-season again, how important Maddison has been to the way he wants to play. He's going to bring all the other players into the team, make Son look much better, Kulusevski as well. And if Richarlison's up top, who's also been thriving in Postecoglou's system, it's going to be a great signing. I think that people slept on Maddison. I don't know why, because I think he would improve any of the top 6 sides. But I think Spurs are lucky to have him because them life after Kane is going to be very difficult. But having James Maddison,
do you not think for that reason he might just slightly go under the radar? Like Spurs might just be quite an average team this season, at least in terms of results.
No, because I think in terms of top class ability, I think Maddison, in terms of creative midfielders in the world, let alone the league, I think Maddison is up there.
I think it's a great signing.
Mike, you want to hear from you because you said flop transfer.
Yeah.
And you've got Onana now.
Yeah, man. Should we get a reprise? Hey Mo, I really want to see if you can beat our man at his near post, Haaland. I really want to see if you can stick away a pen. Oh, na. Second half. Third part coming soon. I was really tempted to go for Nkunku. I had Szoboszlai on here before as well. I think Nkunku is a brilliant signing for the price. Like, yeah, he might be finally the attacker that Chelsea need. Szoboszlai, I think, is like Coutinho 2.0 for Liverpool. Like, especially with Liverpool's transitional midfield, they'll need those goals from midfield if they're going to become a bit more leaky at the back potentially. They haven't signed Lavia yet. That Fabinho's gone. But Onana, like Dougie said, I just don't think there's any signing in the Premier League this summer who transforms the way a team play. And United might not finish any higher than they did last year. I don't think they will. But I think at the end of the year, United will look like a completely different team. And for the first time, will have not only a very clear style of play, but a clear style of play that works on a week-by-week basis. In the Champions League as well. Like, I think Onana is he's so transformative, and this is also the first month, by the way. Onana's going to give away at least 2 goals from trying to play out at the back, and getting caught out. But it will very quickly change. It will very quickly change.
Hands down, because this round's coming to an end. I don't want to hear any more arguments. Everybody's made their points. Everybody has spoken here. I think just because we had an agreement there, I think Dougie and Mikey have to take home the points. The first agreement of the day. I think these are both really good answers.
Nice to see on the spicy.
Value for money, though. That's what I was just gonna say. Value for money, innit?
Next up,
let's go.
The ultimate is first sacking.
Oh, great one.
Here we go.
Great one. I know what I'm going for.
Okay. I want reveals in 3, 2, 1, now. How?
Ooh. How?
I ran out of space, but Heckingbottom.
We got an agreement here.
Oh, yes.
David Moyes.
Guaranteed points, baby.
Why do we think David
guaranteed
Moyes?
points?
Well, apparently it is. They agreed on Onana, and then they got a point. They didn't even change.
One second. Did you write down Postecoglou and then see that I was writing down David Moyes?
No, I didn't see anything that you wrote down. I was trying to remember.
Can I just make a quick statement?
Oh, give it one.
Cry more.
Let's go, come on. Well, listen, David Moyes, I think, as I've said earlier, the negativity around West Ham is huge at the moment. He's teetered on his job multiple times since he's been back there. There's always, like, as you kind of said earlier, the Europa Conference League really papered over the cracks of the side. I think with the money and the signings they're making, I think they are expected to play a slightly more attractive brand of football. And I don't think that like the reliance, I don't think the reliance of going back to like that kind of slightly bullish approach up front, like feeding off scraps, as Antonio said. I don't think that the fans are going to cope with that if it looks like it's going wrong next year, which I think it will be going wrong for West Ham next year. I just think at this point there are going to be other managers available. I think David Moyes' days are numbered, even though what he did was remarkable last year of the Conference League. The ownership have that in their locker to pull the trigger on a manager like this, and I just think David Moyes, given how long he's been in the game, I think he's going to be viewed as an unfashionable manager going forward as of next year. So I think he's almost taken them as far as he can come, and it might be considered time for a younger manager to come in and do his bit.
Yeah, I think there are better managers out there. Even without Rice, there is still a lot of interesting kind of quality in that squad. Yeah, I think they can still play a better brand of football. I just think Moyes' time has come. Like he's survived a few sticky situations there. I think one more and it's done. There's change. West Ham. There's been changes behind the scenes. Like I just think Moyes. Yeah, I just don't think Moyes fits what the vision is going to be.
But guys, they could have made that call after the Conference League and they stuck by it.
Yeah, but
do you think it makes sense to get rid of him, say 10 games into the season, which is what it's going to take to be the first sacking? This guy, I would be amazed if he lasts 10 games.
But I don't think anyone's expecting Sheffield United.
But it's not about expectations.
Whatsoever.
But if they are bottom of the league with a point after 10 games, he will be fired.
If West Ham starts off badly and that crowd gets whipped up at the stadium and starts calling for the owners and whatnot, they're going to have to be panicked and make into a decision. And the manager is always the first person to go. The manager is always the first person to go.
But first,
yeah, I think first when it all goes wrong.
You said that they're making signings or whatever and stuff like that. Yeah, I think because they lost Declan Rice and they're coming up to the end of the transfer window without making these clear signings, I think the board are going to want a settled environment, regardless of what the fans thinks. If you're telling me that they're going to have the exact same season that they did last season and they didn't sack him in that environment, I don't think that they're going to be forced to do that because they were in uproar anyway. The reason why I've said how is because I think.
Come on, man.
Wait, the reason why I said
first sacking, man.
First
sacking.
He's got so much credit in the bank. He's got so much credit in the bank.
And that's fine. And
first sacking.
The thing is, yeah, you guys are thinking that I don't rate, man. It's not that I don't rate him. I rate Howe and I rate Newcastle, but I think because of the pressure that they're gonna have to do something, I think
he'll have some time. The first sacking is going to happen in September or start of October latest.
Maybe end of August. End of August.
Do you reckon?
Scott Parker.
Scott Parker went 4 games into last season. That's why I think there is something in the Heckingbottom argument.
You can change whenever you want.
But I just think that the start of this season could be really miserable for West Ham.
You know what to do.
I'm sticking that down here. I just think the first month of the season could be really miserable for West Ham if their transfer window goes the way it goes. Something's got to give. Something's got to give.
Wait, so if Newcastle lose their first 5 games, yeah, you telling me
they're not going to do that?
They're not going to.
I don't want to hear it.
Can we minus a point?
No, that's just my
I'm
opinion.
tempted. If you don't shut your mouth, then you will lose a point. I have to say, I gave a point for the agreement of the last round. I'm going to give another point for a well-argued agreement in David Moyes.
We were right in the last round.
We're right again, mate.
You are not.
You're right. I'm going to give.
He changed his answer.
An agreement to these guys.
Great tactics there, Henry. Just looking at my board and going.
Final round then, because we have been shooting for a while here, is the bomb three. Who's going down, please? And I want it in order, really. I want 18, 19, 20. 3, 2, 1, turn.
Bash.
Oh.
Fulham, Luton, Sheffield, Nottingham, Luton, Sheffield, Wolves, Luton, Sheffield. So
Everyone's got Luton and Sheffield in the same order. It's about 18th.
No, he's got
Luton bottom.
Oh, okay.
Are we going to argue about that?
Luton
Yeah.
bottom.
So everybody's agreeing on those teams. So let's talk about the teams in 18th. Nottingham, Fulham, Wolves, Everton. Four different teams.
I would expect Wolves to make some moves towards the end of the window, but the exodus of top talent from that team, it's terrifying. Ruben Neves, Jaron Moutinho, Nathan Collins. There's speculation around Max Kilman. Don't know where his headspace is at. They've lost bit part players like Diego Costa, Adama Traore, even Raul Jimenez. They already struggled to score goals. Lopetegui was thinking about walking earlier in the summer. He's been persuaded to stay. They haven't really signed anyone of note. I don't really see a situation where they're not 17th, 16th, 18th at most.
Sam.
I think Everton have been riding this wave for the last few years. They haven't done anything in the transfer window that has made me think that they're going to not be in this situation unless something changes as in the next few weeks. But even at that, when you look at the squad depth, there are already conversations of them losing Damari Gray. I think if you look at the other teams, Wolves, they've got a great manager, and I remember that one of the last episodes.
Is Sean Dyche not a great manager for a relegation scrap?
I don't know, because he's been relegated, or did he get sacked?
He got sacked before they got relegated.
But yeah, he was effectively.
But I think in this situation, Wolves have a better manager. I think Fulham are going to make signings, and they've still got Silva, who's more of a progressive manager in terms of the way they play football. And Nottingham Forest, I think that they are not going to be in that conversation. I think when you look at their squad, yeah, they have a squad. They were very unsettled last season because of the amount of players that came in. But by the end of the season, they found their rhythm. They found the players that works. They found the system that works. They trusted those players, and none of them really have left.
What do you mean? They don't have a keeper. They've lost. They don't have a single number one keeper at the moment. Ren Lady's gone.
They're linked with two or three keepers.
I think their defence was a big problem last year, and I don't think that's improved at all.
But I think
so far
keeping
this
Brennan
summer.
Johnson and
I agree with you,
Morgan
but I think every team's
big.
got every team's got players who can maybe help them within the context of the teams that we've suggested. Like Wolves still have
help in Everton.
I still think they've got people like Tarkowski at centre half. I still think they've got Calvert-Lewin. If he gets back to fitness, he could still score goals. Everyone's got players that can help them out. I just think Nottingham Forest teetered on relegation last year. They kind of had that late kind of burst, which we sometimes see from teams in that battle. I don't think they can repeat that next year. I think Steve Cooper was lucky not to go at multiple points across the campaign. A bit like when Sheffield United came up previously. I think they just about surprised enough people to stay up last year, but I don't think they can repeat that again. Whereas Everton do have experience running through that side with Sean Dyche. I still think Wolves have got just about enough, and they were defensively pretty solid last year, and that's what might be able to help them out. And I just don't think Fulham are going to get relegated. They're going to have a bad year, but they're just not going to get relegated. We haven't actually sold Mitrovic yet. Al Hilal are looking at other forwards, so it's not actually a done deal that he's leaving. We still have a lot of really good experience in that side, so I don't think Fulham are going to get relegated. We're going to have a bad season, yeah. I think Nottingham Forest are more likely to suffer
They've
than
got
Fulham.
the better team. They've got the best team out of the four teams that are in 18th spot. So I don't understand how you can. And I think what you said about Steve Cooper almost riding his luck last season, I don't think he'll get that same luck this season.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean that the manager that comes in won't inherit a good squad.
Thing is, I don't think there's not really a bad option on these four.
Yeah.
It could be any
I
of
must
them.
admit with Forest, I think Forest's defence will potentially be more settled next season because they were, they were. But I must admit with Forest, I saw a thing recently. I think out of all the 92 clubs in the
football pyramid,
in the football pyramid, in the professional football pyramid in England, I think Nottingham Forest's ownership and general structure or whatever was rated by far the worst. So it's a weird club, but
whereas we're the family club, Fulham.
Fulham are a family club, but they're going to be the biggest underachievers this season. I think it's going to be really tight. It is actually mad. This Premier League season, the top half is so strong between 5th and 10th, 11th. Below that, it is really weak, isn't it? It actually is. There really is a table of two halves here next season. I think all of them will be fighting for their lives. But I'm just going to go with my hunch from earlier about
final
Fulham.
point. I often think it's about goal scorers keeping you up, and Wolves have been notoriously bad goal scorers. They've lost Diego Costa, they've lost Raul Jimenez. Their main striker is Sasa Kalajic, who's just coming off an ACL injury. Fulham have got Carlos Vinicius, Mitrovic. They've got.
That doesn't get you a point, by the way.
You've got Awoniyi, you've got Morgan Gibbs White, you've got Brennan Johnson.
Mitrovic is not going to be at Fulham.
He might be.
Carlos Vinicius
is not going to be in a good headspace, but he might be there.
That's a very good point.
Mitrovic such in a bad headspace in the Prem. He's not going to. Yeah, you know what I mean. He's not going to do
So
well.
the fact that Dougie was convincing enough to get Sam to change that means Dougie takes a point for Wolves.
To be fair,
That bottom three
that last point
is taking it. Very well made argument there, which means the scores are as follows. Okay, the scores are in. We've got a draw in second place and a draw in first place.
Ooh.
2 players on 2 points. Henry and Sam on 2 points, which means our winners for the day, Mikey McCubbin and Dougie Critchley, both on 3 points.
Wow. If only I hadn't said Madison. What a shocker that was.
I should have said Palace, bro. I would have been top as well, man.
That was a Team Talk predictions special. Let us know your predictions in the comments below. We'll probably do a Sunday Vibes predictions episode as well, towards the end of the window though, because this is going to be going out before the season starts. I'll also do a We Need to Talk 1 to 20, I think. Yeah, that's very much, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye. What the fuck did I just say that?
I don't know, follow.